Chapter 33, The Productive Stoner. I always wanted to be a functional pothead, but I had to stop trying 3 kids later. I gave it my best shot. Don't think I'm a quitter. 7 years ago, my wife barged into our one-bedroom apartment bathroom on a Friday night in a whirlwind of presumptive disgust because I was enjoying myself a tad too much. As our 3-year-old splashed in the bubbles and sang with me as we crooned with soul-stirring, shimmering glee to Bob Marley's Evil Spirit Conquering Doopy Conqueror. Understand that I had puffed a one-hitter in the bathroom with the window open before I got my daughter situated in there, which got me feeling extra loosey-goosey. Now, my wife barges through the bathroom door unannounced, shoots off a final judgment hate stare in my direction, and says with frothy damnation, dispiritedness, "You're such a stoner," before slamming the bathroom door off the hinges. Next, my 4-year-old daughter Matilda, singing Rose Cornbooth, said, "Daddy, you're not a stoner. You're a rock star." I said, "You're right, Matilda, because stoners aren't doers, and Daddy's a doer. Granted, I haven't done Mommy since her birthday last year, but that's besides the point. Do I still smoke some weed, squeeze in a puff of Florida Crippy for old time's sake, to celebrate writing the first draft of a new TV pilot like I did for my past creations, including Don't Laugh, I Live in Newark, Mr. Right, and Mike Mates? I'm strong at banging out headline hookers, I know. But no, I haven't smoked the scrumptious Crystal Spect Green Supreme Goodness in 4 months now, I think. Could be shorter. Could be longer. So much for my short-term memory bouncing back with palpable, reverberating vengeance since my past podcast goodbye to my pothead plague pass in episode 43, my weed exit interview on my Do It All Dad Year podcast. I had my daughter do the intro for it. Funnier dad, happier baby. And I'm living proof of it. Can I get a holla for some holla? Okay, so back to the $1,000,000 question. What drove me to take an overdue vacation from what I perceived as my best bud till my daughter Matilda was born? For starters, 3 kids later, I could no longer afford to feel like a bigger moron than I already felt. I was around my comedic genius daughter. She's a math nerd also, which is a tad annoying. It got to the point where I was disgusted at my belabored ad-lib replies to her super deep, out-of-nowhere questions about God. My daughter asked, "So, Daddy, if God created the universe, then who created God?" I say, "God went back in time in a time machine made by Elon Musk." My daughter replies, "Real convincing, Dada. Thanks for making me an atheist at 4. The joke doesn't work as good if she says 6. When you stop smoking weed after you've been a stoner for 2 decades, you start remembering your dreams because they're so vivid, crazy, Holmes. You think you've been blackout drunk your entire waking life prior. What I've noticed in these dreams is old buds resurface, who I'd either get stoned with or drunk with, but any semblance of a sturdier, brotherly bond past getting fucked up together disintegrates under the unflinching, murky glare of my dream undertow, where old buds appear emotionless within the shadowy corners of my subconscious REM catching up. Mine, man. I also compared my joke retweet stats on Twitter. When I took an extended break on weed prior to my podcast episode, Weed Exit Interview, and was disgusted at the sobering statistical illumination revelation, I banged out almost 10 times as many jokes off the weed than on it. Plus, my jokes on weed in comparison sounded like the dull-minded, dim-witted, dead-brain drippings of a mentally strained douchebag. I've had burnout-induced moments throughout my 20s and 30s when I was an awful communicative stoner, which haunt me to this day. Once I was cold calling a VP of engineering as an IT recruiter doing new business development in Manhattan for a staffing company, One Penn Plaza, right above MSG. I could barely state my own full name clearly. At this point, I only had 36 years of practice. Hi, my name is Michael Kornbluth from Adam Jacobs and Associates. Struggling with your own name, I see, the VP of Engineering said with relish glee. I continued to get high off the extra good green after becoming a dad because it still brought me pleasure and it helped my brain chill at night. When I'd squeeze in a hit away from the kids after dinner around 7. I love listening to Grateful Dead, Europe 72 on it, or hair metal ballads by Warrant, especially while reading New Jokes of Mine, which came alive off the page a bit more on it. Not to mention my evening reading performances for my kids in bed were more spontaneous fun for both the kids and me. Reality is, though, weed is a poor man's substitute for the American hustler, search and destroy, kill 'em all mentality I needed to embody to become a major comedy success in this universe. And continued weed use burns out my full throttle flame of creativity before I can take it even higher. I justified my weed use for long because I'd use the weed as a reward for getting a new script or blog done, but that's a limited way of thinking, especially knowing how I'm scheduling myself to be a tad less productive the day after I get blazed. Or maybe I'm just being paranoid about it. I don't know. My wife's worst nightmare was me being stoned at night once she was in labor with our third child, Samuel Teddy. Kornbluth. The birth of Samuel pushed me past my obsession with fulfilling all my self-serving needs. 14 months later, I became determined to love myself better and be the healthier, wiser, friskier, funnier dad, provider my family of 5 needed me to be. Now I'm pushing myself to maximize my time on this earth to make it as a writer on the rise after all. One my 3 kids can be proud of. Past their adoration of dad because they're not teenagers in love with anyone else but me yet. My book, Controlling My Kids, a Comedy Love Story, is a love letter about how my 3 kids got my act together. It's a self-improvement story about how my 3 kids inspire me to replace bad habits with good habits, more often than not. It's a humor book about parenting, modern fatherhood, and controlling my kids through comedy as a stay-at-home comedian, podcast host, and blogger who works from home. It's a memoir about my unusual artist family and how my kids have made me a better friend, husband, patriot, writer, leader, and comedian. Last night my daughter asked, "Are you close to finishing your book yet, Dada? When you start selling copies of it through Amazon Kindle and at Barnes & Noble, can I call you an artist? Because real art sells, right, Dada?" I liked it better when you call me a rock star instead. Richard Belzer calls comedians frustrated rock stars. Dice being a primo example of that kid.